Hi guys, how you doing? It's Stephen from Glen Car Sales. We're in a new model M2. I absolutely adore the previous shape. It was an instant hit when it first came out. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved how it looked. Everybody loved how it drove. Then they brought out the M2 competition and they gave it more power, but they gave it a little bit more weight as well, and they also robbed it of what everybody absolutely adored coming out the back of the original M2, and that was the sound of it from the good old tried and tested N55 straight 6 single turbo, which was then replaced by the this is the lane departure, I've wandered a bit there, that was then replaced by the S55 engine, which came from the BMW M3 stroke M4. As much as it was an absolute powerhouse of a thing, everybody complained about the sound, bar a very small few. It was a really potent engine, but it just didn't sound as good as the old one, and that's as good as the OG, and that is a conversation or a debate that will roar on forever. So moving on from what has definitely been a massive success of the original, whether it's OG or competition, we're now moved on to the G Series M2. So what things do I love about it and what things do I hate about it? So let's get the elephant in the room addressed. It's massive! It is absolutely enormous. Now, it does not feel big when you're sitting in the car. The first one we had a Zandvoort blue car that was reversed up against the fence outside of the garage, and it was parked in exactly the same position as an M340D Touring. And much to our complete shock, it was the exact same length, bumper to bumper. Now, this is the small baby 2 Series coupe that is now the same length, once it's an M car, as a 3 Series estate. Just let that sink in for a minute. It is nowhere near as practical. You have nowhere near as much space in here, but on the floor, bumper to bumper, is the same length. Now, the reason why is because the G Series M2 is no longer a 2 Series underneath. Nope, because the new 2 Series is either front wheel drive or 4 wheel drive with a transversely mounted engine in the front. So to get everything working for the M2, it then had essentially to become a baby M3, M4. So underneath all this 2 Series dress, we've actually got an M4 or an M3, depending on what way you want to look at it. So therefore, it is basically let's just call it an M3 for easy talking, with a 2 Series body stretched over it. So that's why it's as long, but also that's why it also has these enormous pumped up Audi UR Quattro style wheel arches. They are colossal, absolutely, and it looks almost caricature like from various angles. So there, that leads me into an issue that I've got with it. They just didn't give it the stance that the body shell then desires. It's got quite a sunken stance. The front wheel's a 19 rather than the 20 on the back. So yeah, we've also got a staggered fitment width and also dimension and also diameter on the front and the back axle. So the front wheel really does look quite lost. If you see these cars lowered on spacers, they look like an entirely different proposition. They look so much more muscular, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why BMW released this car the way it is, to encourage people to buy all the M power goodies, of which there are loads. So the looks are subjective, but they can be enhanced very easily with BMW approved mods. You're also buying basically a cheaper price M3, because obviously the M2's got to be less expensive than its big brother, and what should be a more compact package, but it really isn't. So it's more just of a styling design, like what one you prefer the look of rather than what you'd rather have the smaller car over the two. So now we've kind of covered how it looks, a couple of things I don't like about it, the wheels being sunk in and everything. What I do like about it is the big pumped arches that gives you. But then onto the drivetrain, so this is essentially the B58, which everyone knows is an absolute powerhouse of a thing. It's all pumped up internals, strengthened internals, pistons, rods, all that stuff, and they've stuck an extra turbo on it. It is an absolute ballistic car. This is 460 horsepower right out the box. People are tuning these things to 700 brake horsepower, and that is an awful lot of power for a rear-wheel drive car, because the M2 does not come in the X-Drive option yet, but watch this space, any money they'll release it. All that power is sent through the back wheels. No longer does it have a DCT gearbox. We are missing that lovely, crispy gear change delivery that can only come from a dual clutch transmission. We're now on a ZF, but the way they've configured the box, especially when you've got it turned up to 3, they have managed to simulate a nice mechanical feel. So we're in the second position, so we put it up to the third. Let's just slow that back down again. You can actually see me moving in the seat. So they've managed to bring that mechanical gear change back into the driving experience, and it's all the more better for it. But if you don't want that, you can put it back into 1 or 2 and you get lovely, smooth, seamless gear changes. The paddles themselves are beautifully crafted. They're serrated on the back. They've just got the right amount of effort to change them, and they just work so well. Big rev flare on the needless downshift into first. Just let this man out. Now let's see how quick it goes. So we'll put in the M2, because the previous owner kindly configured the M2 to the perfect setting, including MDM, because we need a bit of MDM to allow a bit of slip. So I think we'll give second a miss. We'll leave it in, first a miss. We'll leave it in second, and then we'll give it a squeeze, see how it goes. The ratios are really nicely stacked. It just feels like every single time you pull another gear, it's exactly the same amount of power shoving you from the rear axle, and it's super addictive. Mid-gear acceleration, we're in third gear, and as I said earlier, it is just a rocket ship. This infotainment will take an awful lot of getting used to. This has a fantastic head-up display, but because of how I like the seat to be nice and low, I can't actually see it. I had an attempt to go in through the settings to adjust it, because I know you can lift it up so I can see it, and honestly guys, you press home and then you go to the settings menu, and I'm not kidding, there must be 40 icons here. I love the way they put the M drift analyzer as the first icon. So yeah, this takes a bit of getting used to, it really does. But anyway, let's forget about the infotainment, and we'll go on with this road. Big shift lights right along the top of the binnacle. They blast out the exhaust on the upshifts. You know that there's obviously a bit of fuel getting injected in there to give that feeling of pantomime through the drama through the exhaust. But do you know what? Absolutely love it. I think it sounds really cool. You would think on this road, you can see me getting tossed about in the seat a bit, I would be complaining about the weight of the car, because in round figures I believe it's about 1800 kilograms, so it is no longer a small or a light car. That being said, the old M2 I think was about 1600 kilograms, so it was a little bit portly given its rather modest dimensions. But yeah, coming along that road, you'd think it would start getting a bit wayward and, you know, a wee bit kind of out of sorts due to the suspension trying to contain that mass. But if you never told me the car was 1800 kilograms, I wouldn't have thought it for a minute. Just to give you an idea of the settings, we're currently in Sport Plus for the engine, we are in Sport Plus for the chassis, and we're in Sport for the steering, and the brakes, you can configure the brakes, because I do believe these have fly-by-wire throttle. Yes guys, the brake pedal is connected to the brakes through electronics, but that allows you to adjust the brake pedal feel. I've had a fiddle about with it, and so far I can't really tell that much of a difference, if I'm being completely honest. So anyway, we're now on a little bit more of a tighter, twisty road. I'm going to going to dial the suspension back to sport, in fact, and we'll see how we go on. This binnacle in front of me here, the main one, not this bit over here, you can dial this back so that it only gives you a big rev counter in the middle. I think that's when you put it into the track setting. In the suspension, change the direction of the brake is making up. Remember the first time I drove one of these, and I almost felt that it had some form of rear wheel steering because of how well it turned in. It's turning in awful well, probably because it's got a 265 front tyre on it. It's a colossal tyre on the front, but again, that's going to be needed because of the weight. Quick left and right here. Lots of power away out, and you can hardly even feel the traction control kicking in. Even to the MDM, it is configured beautifully. You can dial it back if you like, but just dialing from full traction to MDM is enough to really let you go on with the job in hand without having all that power dialed back. Now, after you've finished hooning about and driving like a bit of a wally, and you just decide to go, well, put it back, turn the M off, and just sit back and take in the cabin, and it is absolutely beautifully crafted. I've said this since the new G series, 3 series came out. The previous generation, the F cars, as good as they were, absolutely love them. The interiors were pretty second rate. You know, you touched stuff and it creaked, and the plastics were all thin and flimsy feeling. But in this, you know, you've got these two big lovely centre vents that just feel beautifully constructed. This car's got carbon fibre everywhere. That's the only bit in the cabin I feel is a bit of a letdown, and that's the centre cubbyhole lid. But once that's down and it just flows. I'm getting to like this new steering wheel as well. I must say, I thought the F-Series steering wheel was just right on point. It almost had that nice kind of retro feel about it. I always felt this one, the spokes were a bit too chunky, but I'm getting used to it. And also it sits right where you want it. It sits, you know, the adjustment, I mean, that must be coming out, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches, right all the way out. And it's also one of the few cars that I can actually put the seat down too far. So if you're a big tall guy and you like sitting nice and low in the car, you're going to be able to have yourself exactly where you want to sit. And then a couple other really cool things. So the tricolours on the door, when the door's open, these light up and the red strike on it pulses. Cool to let people know that the door's open. And also they come with so much standard stuff now. This has a comfort pack, that's all. So it's got keyless entry, and I think this heated steering wheel was part of it, and maybe the wireless charging. But other than that, your head-up display, your dynamic chassis, the valved exhaust, you know, all this stuff comes as standard. I remember having a 67 plate M2 that didn't even have heated seats, and we've also been offered a couple of M2 competitions that didn't even have the hi-fi upgrade. So these new cars, when, you know, if they're listed with base spec, I mean, base spec now literally gives you everything that you would want, all included in the price, of which is rather substantial, as we mentioned earlier. So in comparison to the old car, there really is, it feels like so much more car. It's faster, it's nicer to be in, it does not feel its weight, so it handles, this handle is good. It doesn't feel just quite as nimble, if I'm honest, it really doesn't, but where you lose out on that intimacy of feeling like you're driving a smaller car is that it's nicer to use. The older car just shook the teeth out your head all the time. So if you were just going to work and you wanted to just get there in relative comfort, the M2 was not the car for you. The M2 was a snarly wee beast, and that's the only mode that it had. This has got such a broad spectrum of ability, and that's also what I felt the new M3, M4 offered when that came out as well. Yes, it's maybe not just quite as focused, it's maybe not just quite as raw, but it also just offers the days when you can't be bothered, a nice drive to work or a nice drive to see your friend 400 miles away without feeling like you've arrived there on a skateboard. So yeah, it's a much more grown up car. It feels like a much more expensive car. I'd probably say the only thing that it's going to take a bit of time for people to get over is the looks. And if you're on the fence and you're looking at it and thinking, I don't know, go and drive one. You cannot come away from the new M2 without being impressed. It is a serious bit of kit. The old one was serious, but this is serious not just in performance but also in the full ownership package. The interior, the comfort, the standard spec and everything that now comes as standard. So guys, thank you very much for making it to the end of the video. As always, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I will put a little button down here, trying to point and look at the camera at the same time, to subscribe, and also there will be another video link up here to an M3 E92 M3 E92 get that the right way around. So let me know what you think of that one, or let me know what you think of this review. If you've loved it, please give me a wee thumbs up. If you don't agree with what I'm saying, not only can you give me a thumbs down, but also let me know in the comments. I always reply, guys. No comment goes unread, and that's a promise. I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.